And welcome everyone. So I'm going to turn it over to Brianna for our money mindset call, and I'll let you ground us in and get rolling. And yeah.
Thank you. Good morning, lovely humans. So let's do some grounding. You could just like settle right in. Oh, unless you're driving. Be careful with the driving and the grounding. I see you. If you're driving, do not close your eyes. But for the rest of you, you're welcome to close your eyes or not, as it works for you. And grounding is all about getting present in your body. So if you notice that your body is feeling some kind of way, and you need to move or stretch, that was a good time for that. Just give your body a little wiggle. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, ooh, maybe I'll do some yoga after this. Oh, it feels good to move. Let's do some stretching and some grounding. And if you're willing to just drop your grounding cord into the earth. And today's a good day for feeling. And just really notice and feel how the earth feels today. Notice that connection. And let the grounding cord just drop, and drop. Gently but firmly. And take some deep breaths. And as you're letting that grounding cord drop, just notice if there's a place that you get to there, like this is a good place. Maybe it's a little bit warm. Maybe it feels cozy. Maybe it feels connected. Maybe it feels safe. And let that energy rise up that grounding cord and start to just fill you up. Nice, warm, gentle, grounded, safe, cozy energy. Oh, and then you can feel that energy come up into your feet and your ankles and your legs. And maybe you need to sometimes I rub my legs when I'm grounding, or touch these parts of my body so that I'm fully here. And then that energy can just rise up into your sex in the bowl of your pelvis, your belly. Your chest and your heart. And let the earth's energy just fill up your heart. And let that energy flow over your shoulders and down into your arms and your hands. And up into your head. You can reach up like the branches of a tree and let that energy shoot out of your head and up into the stars, and get a little stretch as you reach for the stars. And then you can let it all fall back down, and with it, anything that you do not need. This is your reminder to put your phones on Do Not Disturb. Hello, lovely humans on this day that has a lot of green energy. What would you like to share or have healed, transformed on this call, this bright, shiny St. Patrick's Day morn? I love it. You are all so healed. Everything is going so well. Good job.
Don't be shy, y'all. I should have also said this is the last group call we're doing with Brianna. So this is your chance because we shift more into like marketing mode after this. So
yeah. So I wanted to say something about that. If you want to reach me outside of here, you can either reach me on my website, which I think you all know, blissyourmoney.com. It's a good day to go and get on the email list so that you can stay in touch. I do a couple free calls a month in our Facebook group, and you're welcome to come and play with me. Marley.
I'll go. I mean, I'm always happy to go. I'm just I always go. So
Thanks for
I try to step back, but I think one of the specific question that I'd love to bring to the table today is around, like, right now I'm in this, like, I'm trying to slow down and root and not be in like the generation of clients mode. And it's also like, I track my income and it's been lower the past few months because of that. And I think, and my group is ending, that's like been paying me monthly for the past few months as well, like this month. So heading into April, I'm like, pretty good, like nothing coming in really. And I also know that I have enough, but like staying, I think, in an abundance mindset, even though I'm not generating anything. And that feels like I don't like it. It feels like I'm like, I want to make more money, and so I think
you can make more money if you want to.
Yeah. And I want to, but I'm like, I'm not offering anything. I'm not selling anything. I'm not enrolling anything, and seeing like that this is, I know, an important piece to be able to make more money and not just, and get out of like the just wing it land, which I'm comfortable with.
Okay, so let's do the first thing that I would work with you on, which is, have we talked about holding your space on these calls?
I'm not sure.
I think that is a no.
Yeah, like.
So one of the most important things that you can do for yourself, like in the world, is to hold your space. And now you're like, what does that even mean? So if you've ever watched someone, I want you to notice two things. One is, if you've ever watched someone who's having a hard time, who you're like, oh, wow, they've actually really got this, right? Something is going on for them, but they feel sort of upright. Let me give you a better example. If you've ever watched, these are good examples. If you've ever watched someone coach from a stage, and the person that they're coaching is like a kind of a fall down mess, right? And they keep throwing things at the coach, and the coach just is like, it's all good. It's all good. I've got this, right? They're holding their space, right? They're not letting whatever's going on with the other person kind of like into their space and let it collapse their space, right? And kind of like, because the minute you collapse your space, you sort of go into, some people call it victim mode, but when your space is collapsed, right, you don't have the space that you need to kind of move. Physical, what do I want to say about this? There are a bunch of kinds of space: physical space, emotional space, psychic space, spiritual space. And you need all of these in order to be kind of whole, well grounded in the universe. So when you're holding your space, you're able to act from that grounded, present, and available space, right? Some people would call that an abundant mindset. Like you're just here right now in this space, right? And everything is, when we act from right now, everything is well, right? Generally, everything is cool. Everything's good, right? Right now, you look around, and you're like, it's pretty great, right? So what the practice is about holding your space. And if you would just for a minute take a breath and close your eyes, accept darshana, and just imagine yourself in I often think of in Beauty and the Beast and the roses and the like terrarium, partially because it entertains me and it's beautiful, and I like to think of myself as a beautiful sparkly rose. And just like imagine yourself, you're in that terrarium, and then just take a breath into that. And that glass around you is your space. And the truth is, you can make it anything you want, right? So you can make it glass, you can make it a big plastic bubble, you can make it out of spikes, you can make your space look like whatever you want it to look like. And just breathe into that for a minute. And you can make it bigger and smaller, do whatever you want with it. As long as it's kind of fully yours. This is mine, this is my space. And for those of you who may feel a little like you're not quite owning it, I encourage you to stand up and be like, this is my space. Okay. Now that you're like, yeah, cool, this is my space, I'm into it. What I want you to notice that on the bottom left, I'm not sure why it's always on the bottom left for me, there's a little door. And that door opens only from the inside. It only has a knob on the inside. And the only person that can open it is you. So this is like your space magic wand. You get to decide who comes into your space. You get to decide when they leave. You get to decide how much space you take up. And it all has to do with whether that door is open or closed. And just breathe into that. Try opening and closing that door. You can make it as big or as small as you want. And then I want you to practice collapsing that space just for a minute. Have that space like stick to your face and be like, right? It's a really easy thing to do. And then take a breath and like poof it out again. Restore it. And then collapse it again. And then poof it out again. And then hold your space, but take a breath and open your eyes. You feel that? You can say no. It's okay if the answer is no.
I don't know what that means. Like that. I don't
Do you
know.
feel your space? You feel like you're like,
yeah, I feel like I'm like standing or like sitting up taller. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I notice is it's easy for my space to get a little dented sometimes. Like something will come at me and I'll sort of like almost feels like I'll like flinch, and then there'll be like a little indentation in my space, and then I have to like kind of push it back out again. what I notice is when people are having this like drop in mindset, it's often because they've collapsed their space, right? And usually that's because they think they can't handle it. So the mantra of holding your space is, I can handle this. I've got this. And remember, I've got this can look like anything. It can look like, I've got this, I'm out, right? It can look like, I've got this, let's deal with it. Let's talk about it. Let's face it head on. I've got this, I'm going to change it. But the minute you're like, I can't handle this, your space just goes, I'm so in her face and I can't really move. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, I guess I get it. And I think I don't feel like I'm necessarily in like a I can't do this or I don't have this. I think it's and I don't know if what it looks like is how can I hold myself in this space without the need to like, I don't know if it's like create or produce out of like scarcity or comparison or whatever it is versus like acting from a more grounded space.
Marley, it
yeah.
also sounds like what we were writing about in the chat, which is that discomfort you were having with putting your program together because it was feeling bigger than you were, that you have to step up into that bigness, and that not knowing how or in it not being easy was a real block. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like this believing that you're rooting right now so that you get rid of the winging it mentality feels very uncomfortable, and you just want to go back to the comfort of small winging it because you know that so well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if that meditation of I've got this because I see myself bigger and I have to do this work to be bigger
Mm-hmm.
might be more of that mantra.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How does that sit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like expanding or elevating my capacity or and yeah, like the discomfort of like doing it differently or doing it, and then I think my nemesis, even in like the billions of Google Docs that I have worked on, is like, it's just like, is this the thing? ? It's not like this is the thing. Fuck yeah. Ever.
Do you need a referral to someone who can help you figure that out?
What do you mean?
Like I have a curriculum designer who's a brilliant curriculum designer, who you can like, buy some sessions with and be like, can you review this with me? Can you help me make sure this is the right thing?
I mean, possibly. I think it's more of like, I mean, yes, it's the curriculum piece of it, but it's like I've had a couple conversations or a couple people reach out to me this week and be like, are you still doing the facilitation stuff? Like, I really need that. Or I loved your class, like I love your facilitation. Are you still doing that? Or, or people joining my Epic Facilitator Community Facebook group and being like, I'm excited to get to, and I'm like, it's too murky, it's too muddy, like it's not clear enough, there's not a fucking tangible result, all the things. So it's like,
oh, so you're in the place where you're like, you still don't have a next step offering.
No.
Can I just say something really quick, just also to loop you in, Brianna, is that like Marley's been working really hard on like clarifying the offering that really is going to express and embody and weave her wisdom together to put that out into the world, instead of like putting out a thing here and then putting out a thing there, which is the winging it mode, right? And so what's happening right now is like Marley's pulling together all of the, kind of trying to weave her gifts together into this like bigger offering, right? that's more true to her essence and her gifts and like what she really wants to do, instead of catering to the people who say, I want this and I want that, I want this. So I just want to, you know, what I'm feeling coming up is really just so much around trust, like trusting yourself that you're moving in the right direction, trusting that what this next thing that you put out there is going to be like good for now and will teach you what the next thing is, and that it's always iterative and you're never going to put out the perfect thing right now, but that what the work you're doing, like literally as we speak, like we've been going, you know, back and forth on, is like you're in process. And there's just this, I'm just like, it's so much of it is just trusting the process that you're in, and that you're going to offer something beautiful and powerful, and like just believe, like it's done, it is, and so it is, right? Like it's happening, it is happening, literally, you know. And just like, just trust. And you've got a thing you're going to launch soon to these people, you've got an opportunity coming up, just trusting that you are in the process, you're working on it, you're getting feedback, you got it. Trust yourself. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. It will definitely evolve. Your framework will evolve, the whole thing, the program.
Yeah. Yeah. We're working on that because I don't think I do. Trust it.
Yeah.
That it will.
And is this a pattern that you've worked on? Like that you've had?
I mean, yeah, like it's like I've created a thing and then I'll just create another thing and I'll create another thing, but I won't like iterate and define and like hone in on like, this is the thing. I just create a new thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a trust issue as well. It's like, I made a thing, but I need to make a different thing for this moment. I need to make a different thing because, you know, whatever happened before wasn't quite right, or I didn't, you know.
Yeah.
So I've had experience of this. For me, it's confusion. Not as much now, but I used to have this like rampant pattern of confusion years ago. And what I notice is we all have our things that we come back to, right? Or like you'll have your go-to like maladaptive coping mechanism, whether it's like, for me, it was confusion. I could just fill a room with confusion. Everybody would be confused. Like we would start out real clear. I would get real confused. Everybody would suddenly be confused. Like I have that power, right? And one of the things that, one of the things to know is if you have a go-to coping strategy that you're like, I can make a whole room be blah, right? That this is a great time to work with that. The Sedona method, which I don't know if you have any experience of, but it's, you know, when we do some welcoming and we do that triple welcoming, I encourage you to welcome that feeling and have it like sit next to you on the couch, or like give it a little snuggle and be like, this is great. Like, I love you, weird coping mechanism. Thank you for all of your help. Right? Because all of that was installed in you for a reason, for a really good reason, right? There's all of this has helped you, right? Helped me, helped us get to where we are now, right? And the transformation is, hey, maybe that's not working so well, but our parts, our internal parts, are with us forever. So our choices really are, we can be like, hey, I think you're a dick, or we can be like, hey, I love you and let's integrate you. Let's get you the tools that you need to like grow up, right? And kind of grow yourself and these different pieces all the way up. So I would encourage you to do some like inner child, inner parts work. Have you ever done any of that? Yeah. Okay. So, you know, find that part and talk to that part of you and be like, hey, tell me what's happening, right? And your job is to listen and to be like, cool, thanks for telling me. Thanks for trusting me with this amazing like piece, right? And asking it what it needs, because there's a reason that this part of you is behaving this way. And there's a good reason. We're not killing off parts of ourselves. Some people will encourage you to do that. It causes chaos and mass hysteria. So you want to welcome that part and give it what it needs. And then often, right, what I like to do is in my inner landscape, I have an inner like palace where I keep all of my parts live. And sometimes I need to go into a room and be with a part and give it what it needs in my internal landscape. And sometimes there's a thing that you need in reality that you're not getting. And sometimes there's like an inner kind of switch that you can kind of do a switcheroo in your head and be like, great, I'm going to give you this part. You can live inside of me forever. And that's often enough to be like, and that part of you will just kind of calm down and like sit back. And then it can give you notifications before the chaos sort of breaks free. Do you know what I mean? If you've done parts work, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's where I would send you to do that work.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just going to come up forever. If we don't work with our parts, if we don't invite them in and take responsibility and work with them and get them what we need, they just like run amok. Like then your whole bus is being driven by like an 8-year-old, right? Not too much sugar. Just like it doesn't work very well.
Yeah. I mean, like there's a big part of me, like I said this yesterday to someone. I just wish I was like a fucking realtor. Like I wish I was like an accountant or a bookkeeper or like a massage therapist. Like it's like that's so cool. Like this is what I do. You know, when people are at networking events, it's like I'm a confidence and leadership coach and I help people do, you know, it's like the vagueness of it and like
it's not vague. Confidence and leadership coach is actually not vague.
And maybe it's like what are my, you know, the stories of, and I don't know if it's like the comparison or, you know, but I get what you're saying and like the patterns of confusion and doubt and second guessing and just being like, okay, here we are.
So,
and welcoming that.
Do you believe that you offer a real valuable skill?
Do I believe I offer a skill?
A real valuable skill. That confidence is a thing that can be learned and practiced.
I think that there's a part of me that probably doesn't believe that.
Yeah, I'm getting that very loud. But it is a skill and it is something that you practice, right? You put your, just put your head up, stand up straight, give yourself more confidence. It's a skill and a practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of what you're designing now, Marley, is that what she's talking about is designing something like where people are like it's not like a whole bunch of read this module, do this exercise. It's like practice being confident, practice being authentic. Like, so you are like, you do that, you give people skills and practices and opportunities to like be to practice confidence. So you are actually teaching that. And I think the beauty of the framework, as much as you don't want to have like a gazillion like modules and things in your programs, the beauty of the framework is that I think it's going to also help you see like what you wrote, that list, you had like a whole section on cultivating or catalyzing confidence. And you're like 6 things in there. I'm like, those are like 6 practices that you're doing with people to help them cultivate confidence. That's a real fucking thing. It is.
Yeah. It's like, that's like that pattern of like writing it down, creating it, and then being like, ooh, versus like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. Like I'm always like, it's pretty good. Maybe.
Does anybody in this room feel like they could ever use more confidence? So there are other people who are like, I need that, I want that. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to encourage you to work with your parts and to be like, what is that, internal 8-year-old, 5-year-old need to feel like you're, turn Pinocchio into a real boy.
Yeah. Brianna.
And yes. I wanted to say something just about like, I'm also experiencing this right now as far as this expansion and also needing to expand trust in myself at the same time as I'm expanding my business and everything. And I'm sure everyone has heard this, but Carl Jung talks a lot about like when you're actually the most afraid or when all of these parts are coming up and these voices, you're actually on the right track.
Yeah.
And they're all the parts of us that have kept us safe growing up, and we've needed those parts. But as we expand, they can become louder and louder, and you can become more anxious. And it actually means you're really going towards your destiny and in your self-actualization. So I read that the other day, and that's been motivating for me because I've been feeling so many feelings, so much fear. The trust has felt it's been harder for me to like really hold on to my grounding and these things. And I'm like, okay, I just need to keep expanding my grounding as I'm expanding and like doing even more of these practices, and remembering that this actually is like I'm on the right track, because if I wasn't afraid, where would we be? We would just be comfortable. We wouldn't be like putting ourselves out there and
Mm,
all of these things. So
yeah, that's
So
so
let's
true.
try another exercise. So this exercise is about being right sized. So if you are in a place where you can stand up, I'm going to walk you through this exercise because we're talking a lot about sizes, and that tells me you're a little out of whack with your personal physical space. So if you can imagine that you're standing in a circle, and as I describe this, you might want to move forward or back. You're standing in a circle that is about, where you can, I feel like it's about this big, where you can kind of stand up, be confident, you have your own little space. And imagine also that there's a circle of the same size in front of you and behind you. This is where you may need to step forward or back so that you can, because you're going to walk into each of these circles. So if you need to adjust your space, now is a good time for a space adjusting. Okay, good. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to step in front into the front circle, and I want you to get as big as possible. Like you are as big as the universe, and you are God, you're a goddess, you're as big as you possibly can be physically, mentally, emotionally. I want you to just bust through the atmosphere, bust through space, and you're like, I'm fucking huge. I have the power of the universe. I am everything. Yeah. Okay. Now I want you to take two steps back, over your middle circle into your back circle, and I want you to get as small as possible. Like just tiny. Curl up in a tiny little ball. Go all the way inside of yourself and be like, I am tiny. I am an itty bitty tiny little mouse. I am teeny tiny. I don't even take up the size of my body. You feel that? All right. Now I want you to take a step over that middle circle into the big one again and get huge and be like, yeah, I am enormous. I am the size of the universe. I take up all of the space. It belongs to me. Yes. I am the everything. I am the all. I am the I am. All right. And then I want you to take a step back into your tiny circle again and get really, 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 really small. Teeny tiny, itty bitty living space. All right, now let's take a step into the middle and notice that those two overlap, and see if you can feel your right size. Shake it off, shake those things off and be like, okay, this is my space. Again, find your space. Maybe you can find that space that is uniquely yours. If you feel like you are yes, I found my right space, put your hand up. Awesome. It looks like we've got it. So come back to me and let's take a couple of shares on this. Caroline, what do you think?
I felt when I came back, I felt like I could be bigger. My space expanded doing that exercise.
Yeah.
So that felt good.
Excellent.
I would contrast that with, I actually was so much more comfortable in my little ball. I wanted to stay in my little ball. I was warm because I'm really cold right now. And so there was this discomfort because like even standing in my position, I still wanted to like wrap my arms around myself, and so that was it felt when I was big, it felt like I was faking it, like this, like, "Rah," which is so on me. So it was an interesting, that middle zone feels like I want to be there.
Close. Alicia, how about you?
Sure. Yeah, I think becoming smaller, was a little uncomfortable, and then the big was like overreaching, and coming back, I felt like, in my body, in my energy, and grounded. So it was like an energetic shift too, like.
Great, thank you. And what about Jessica?
Hi, yeah, small, I really felt I've been really comfortable in that place for a long time, but there's also quite a bit of grief and sadness there. But the big place felt too big, but that just the right size. I really could feel into my sense of embodiment and just this hopeful presence of just like, oh yeah, this is the good stuff right here.
Awesome, thank you. So I call this space present and available. And one of the keys to being able to act from your power, from your what is to be present and available. You're not too small, you're not too big, you're not, out focused somewhere else, you're just grounded right here exactly where you are. So I encourage you to use this exercise anytime you want to find yourself in your right size. This struggle, by the way, is a struggle that every entrepreneur I've ever met comes up against. And there's two struggles in there. One is this like sort of right size of like, am I getting too big for my britches, my project or my thing? Like, who am I, which is also imposter syndrome. Who am I to do this? Who am I to hold this power, to be this, big, to affect this many people, which of course overlaps with visibility. Like it's all one kind of, it can be for a lot of people, one giant tangled mess, right? So it can be complicated to unwind, or you can allow it to just sit next to you on the couch and be like, it's all good.
One comment about that in conjunction kind of with Marley's question, and something that I've been feeling a lot lately is I'm testing out my new program with clients, and that feeling of success when it works and you get that feedback, and then that incredible insecurity and fear when you're waiting for feedback, or when you're like trying to take it to the next level, then all of a sudden that imposter, that I can't believe it, like I'm not ready for this kind of feeling comes over me of like, I can't. And I know, and I've been working so much with the, what is the story that I'm telling myself versus what is my sage, telling me. And I do feel like that it's that, like when something good happens and all of a sudden I always bring in a feeling of less right after that. And mostly when I'm doing things on my own, right? Like when I'm trying to push things on my own where I'm not getting that feedback. So I don't know if there's as much of a comment in that, Marley, as like that feeling of you felt so good when you had your really difficult high school presentation. And you're like, I rocked it. And now you're like back in that feeling of like, I can't do this program stuff, is like the same. That's very similar to where I am. And so I don't think there's much in there except for that like constant.
Yeah. So what's happening is your nervous system gets hijacked by whatever's going on. So we know that as soon as you accept an opportunity, it goes from opportunity to threat, right? Because then you're invested. And the work, I feel like if you want the most personal growth work you can get in a compact amount of time, become an entrepreneur, start your own business, bring up all your fears and insecurity all in one fell swoop. Yeah. And your job really is to see how much you can stay grounded and stay in what you're doing and use every tool available to not let your nervous system get hijacked by what's happening. There are tons of tools for this, right? Being right sized is one of them. That level of having your nervous system hijacked can show up as trauma in your body. And so there are things that you can do. I think let me just 1 second. There's a book. Yeah. It's called Super Better. Do you know Super Better? It's Jane McGonigal. Maybe you don't. She does like games for social good. She's amazing, amazing. But the idea of, it's sort of gamifying this whole thing, but it's also, there are ways that we can kind of chill our nervous system. So if something like that happens and comes over you, you want to actually handle it as quickly as possible, because your nervous system will make those neuronal pathways and you'll create a pattern. And if you have these patterns, you need to stop them. Like, you need to stop them fast and consistently. So one of the things that you can do, and this might sound crazy, but hear me out, is that when one of these things comes over you, you have like a wave of distress, you can actually grab your phone and numb out for a minute. Like, for 5 minutes, play a game until your nervous system is calm again, and that you can go back to doing what you're doing on a calm, grounded way. So when people are talking about, your mindset actually comes first. If you really actually you want to be successful and you want to really grow your business and you're actually committed to that, right? Notice what you're committed to. If you're committed to that, your first work is going to be around mindset, that you're going to work to keep your nervous system calm, and that you're going to focus and make sure that you do what you need in order to be well taken care of to go do the next thing, right? Because as entrepreneurs, we are not like, if you're someone who gets up and goes to work every day, you may or may not be affecting anyone else, right? But it is our intention actually to affect change in the world, right? Anybody else up to that? They're like, I am affecting change in the world. Yes. Okay. If you are intent, if you are committed to this, you have to handle yourself and your mindset first, right? Because if you go into your curriculum creation, your sessions with clients, your teaching, and your mindset is out of control, you will transmit that. You will transmit it like an STI, let me tell you what, and it will get into everything and everyone. So your practice, like if you need to meditate, you need to exercise, you need to sleep well, you need to, do whatever it takes. This is the part where you need to do whatever it takes before you step into the next thing. So Marley, like if you're like, I need to work out, I need to meditate, whatever it is, like don't touch your curriculum until you feel good. Like just don't touch it, right? And if that takes days, weeks to get there, stay with it. And don't let up. In this place, it requires relentlessness in this thing. And I'm going to say one more thing about this, which is you'll know what you're committed to by what you continue to keep doing, even in the face of all of this stuff. So you'll know you're committed to your bullshit because you continue to do it, even though you say you're committed somewhere else, right? And our work, our mindset work, is uncovering this so that we can heal ourselves, transform ourselves, not infect other people with what's happening, right? This is also the work of shifting generational trauma. Is like, I'm just not passing it on, just not going to do it. Yeah. Alicia, it looks like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just want to say I just so appreciate in this with you and in this program that we're working on the vulnerability, because I think that's a shadow of the entrepreneur and the go. And that a lot of times in my life, I've like, you know, like you said, going back and forth between the small and the big, just like get big and then get scared and go back. And so working, I do a lot of this with my clients too, but working on my own nervous system and grounding and healing is so, and sharing this with each other, like, because I also felt like, why is God, my critic has not come up, you know, like this in a long time. Like, well, I haven't challenged myself like this. And I just wanted to say, like, too, like that, I think with Marley, I was just I think too, you know, like that coping of going more is so understandable when we're slowing down and getting big. Like I've worked with that I work with parts work with the clients, and it was like that theme with like 5 people this week of the more part of the protection of when we're slowing down and getting connected with ourselves. So I just want to say I really appreciate this.
Yeah, I feel like this is actually the big work of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to get big, you want to, you know, affect people, you got to manage your mindset. What else? Rebecca.
So okay, yeah. So I have something that keeps coming up with my work, and I've tried to set, this is kind of a boundary thing, and I feel like I've tried to set it a few times, and sometimes I do it and then I feel weird about it. And so what the thing is, so I'm an architect, and a lot of times when I am looking at new clients or a new client contacts me, they have the mindset that they are interviewing architects, and they want me to come out and be interviewed by them to their property. And I used to do that all the time for free, and I would go, and it would eat up, like, it might be a half-hour drive and an hour to hour and a half with them, and then a half hour, you know, it would eat up like maybe 3 hours of my day. And so I basically will still, like, now I'm in the place where if it's right in Oakland and it's like 10 minutes for me to get there, maybe I'll go. Well, this is also kind of pre-pandemic. I'm doing a lot more Zoom ones, but I know it's going to come up again. I'll go and meet them and do kind of an initial free consult on site. And then if they're, you know, like a half-hour drive or in San Francisco or in further East Bay, I want to say, like, I have a flat fee for that, to come out and meet you and look at your situation, but and talk to you about your project. But they think they're interviewing me. So it's like this thing, like they think they're giving me an opportunity to maybe get the job. And I've been trying to shift my mindset to be like, I'm giving you my expert opinion for an hour. And it's this thing I continue to struggle with, and I'm going to charge you some kind of flat fee for that. And
Okay, let's stop
I don't
right
know.
there. Let's just stop right
Yeah.
there. So here's what I want you to do. And I want you to just say it with me. I'm happy to do that over Zoom. If you want me to come in person, there's a fee.
I'm happy to do that over Zoom. If you want me to come in person, there's a fee.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So we know now with that so many things can be done over Zoom, right? That we didn't really think about before. And a lot of when people first come to you, it's you know, this is part of your marketing, your boundary setting with them. Clients love to overrun boundaries, right? And it's really easy to let that stuff get out of control, and it happens all the time. And the earlier you can stop it, the better. And sometimes it's, you know, hard and you can't do it and all this stuff, but the earlier you can set the boundaries, the better. And if the expectation is you want to work over Zoom, right, until they give you money or whatever the boundary is, you have to say it with your out loud voice.
With my out loud voice?
With your out loud voice. Your out loud
out
voice,
loud
if that
voice.
works for you, but I was saying your
Or your outlaw voice.
My out loud voice. Yeah. And I, you know, it's like, it seems so obvious. And I know that it should also just be a filter. If they're not willing to pay me for my time, then they're not a good client. It's hard. It also comes up. It's like someone just earlier this week said, oh, these friends oh, you know, these friends of ours, they're kind of like distant to him, they're friends. To me, they're kind of like distant in the circle. And he's like, I told them to call you about a thing to go meet, you know, they might call you and want you to come over. And then you get into that weird, oh, it's a friend of a friend thing. And yeah, so it's just.
Yeah, don't drop your boundaries for friends and friends of
Yeah.
friends. Yeah, it's a thing that I have, it's a hard lesson. Every time I've dropped my boundaries for friends or tried to do kind of nice things for people, it does not work out, right? You want to treat every client as though they're a client, right? And give that boundary and give that clarity of container to everyone, right? And so the thing is, your friends can make assumptions about what you do and how you do it, and you can correct them and be like, oh, I don't actually do that anymore. We meet over Zoom, right? And it's good to correct your friends and be like, actually, I've made this change, or don't have to, but with your clients, you need to be like, and we meet over Zoom. I mean, right now it's like it's a pandemic. We're still in a pandemic. We meet over Zoom. We don't meet in person right now, and it's just about setting that boundary. What's on the other side of that is often about worthy and deserving. That am I going to have enough clients? Am I going to have enough whatever? But are you in a place where you have plenty of clients?
Yeah, right now I'm busy this minute.
So, when they call you and say, hey, can you come look at the thing? You say, hey, can you just show it to me over Zoom? Right? I'm happy to come out. It's, $300 to come out, or whatever your fee is. Right? And you can say, I go 5 miles from home if they ask you, and just get real specific about your boundary.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but that's the thing is with boundaries, it does get easier the more that you set them. It becomes familiar territory the more that you do it, because you will again develop those neuronal pathways for doing it. But there's not, for this one, there isn't a trick, there isn't a way to get out of it. You have to write it down and be like, this is what we do. And you can, if they email you, you can put it in the email and be like, I'm happy to do this. And it is true that people are like, well, I'm interviewing you. One of the things that I find is that when people are like, oh, I'm interviewing you, you actually want to set it up so that you're doing a session with them and be like, okay, here's my consult. I'm going to ask you questions, and just take charge of it right away. You don't have to let them pretend. I mean, they can ask you questions as well, but really you want to make sure that you have, control of the situation, but like that you're setting the parameters, that you're setting the container as much as possible.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Julie.
Well, I was thinking that too, like the way you set up the call itself as more of a, like how a coach would set up a sales call, or, where it's like, okay, here's what we're going to do for the next half hour. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then you can ask me a question. You just sort of tell them how it's going. And that puts you in that powerful position. And I think, the other cool thing that you're doing that, deep down, it's like what Brianna's saying, this worthiness piece, and there's something that you're doing that, like, which is clarifying your specialty and the work that you do, and putting that out like in a more public way. And there's something too about that while you're worthy no matter what, right? And when you're clarifying and specializing in your marketing, like, I do this particular thing, you're creating demand inherently by being the person who does that. So I believe it becomes easier for you to then say, well, this is what I do. If you want me, if you want the community building architect, like, this is how I do it. You're not like everybody else. And you're creating a brand that is going to distinguish you too. And I think will have you feeling more comfortable also, just being like, this is how I do it. This is the cool work that I do. And people will see that and they'll be like, oh, cool. Yeah, we really want to talk to this architect, and it will start to shift that dynamic too.
Yeah, even as you were saying that, I realized when I was when I think about this, I think about the residential clients. I don't think about the commercial clients. Like, it's the residential clients who want me to come and spend an hour walking around their house with them. The commercial clients generally are much cooler with like just a chat and then, you know, getting a proposal from me and hiring me or not. And so I think I kind of, for this I like almost forgot that I'm shifting my business away from residential anyway. And so, and that's part of why that whole kind of like relationship and respect of time and all of
It's
that.
an education, Rebecca. You know, it's really
Yeah.
an education when they're trying to figure, because if you go back and evaluate, what do you get out of the hour and a half? What it, you know, what is the value to you versus what is the value to them? Right. And then that's what I've learned is like taking control of the conversation and saying, what do you really look at? Because at the end of the day, it's a relationship. I don't need your see your face to know if I want to work with you. Right. Like, you want to know that I have good ideas. That's great. That's going to cost you. I do have good ideas. Right. And I'm happy to come out for a 2-hour consult for $1,000 and give you all my sources and all my ideas. And then you can take it to anybody else. Right. And so it's like standing in that power of, I have a gift to offer you, and this is my process, and this is what we would get out of that meeting.
Yeah, got it. So you're talking about like the first conversation before you do the consult.
Let's chat offline because I've done so much work around this. Like, I've got a whole thing with it. So yeah, I feel like I think we could really share on that.
Okay, thank you.
There is also something about clients who are willing to pay, like your commercial clients know that this is going to cost a lot of money and they're going to let you handle it because they know that you're an expert. Residential clients don't know that, right? They think they need to be in control. And this actually speaks to price sensitivity. People who are very price sensitive are more likely to give you grief than people who are going to come in and be willing to pay your top fee. They just like the price sensitivity, one means they're probably not really ready for you if they're price sensitive at that level. And then the other thing is people who are really price sensitive are much, much, much harder to work with. So shifting into commercial is like, it's just, you know, it's going to be an easier fit for you.
Okay. Well, and they're also business people. They get it. They're doing their own businesses. So yeah.
And they know that as an expert in your field, you need to do it your way because it's the right way. And that's it. Right. And so they get it. And it's much easier to play with people who get it.
And it's much easier to do it with people who are not friends.
Yes.
Okay. So I can take another question or two, or we can do some releasing work. I think we're here till 11:30, right? Who would like to do a release with me? And if you don't want to do that, do you have a question or something else that you are like, I need a thing? I will give you a moment to think about that.
I have a quick question just around like, this is super random, but do you have any investing, like people that you would recommend for like green investing or conscious investing or something?
In Berkeley, there's the RSI, socially responsible investing folks. I could probably pull up the name of someone, but I don't know who asked that question. Is that you, Caroline?
Yeah, I know it's kind of random. I was just wondering.
Yeah. Is that free? Is it for you about investing?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that.
Yeah. So there's a lot to say about investing. But yeah, I can see if I still have a name of someone who's doing socially responsible investing. And otherwise, let me think about who the best person would be. Person I normally send people to has decided to do something else with their life. So I'm like, let me think about it for a minute. But the people who started socially responsible investing are in Berkeley, and I have to look at their names, but they could be a good fit. I also want to, that the place that I have been kind of playing with outside of like, doing an IRA and all that kind of stuff is Acorns. Do you know Acorns? If you're like, I want to get started in the market. It's an app. Let me see if I have a link for you. It's an app where you can start investing with as little as like $5, I think. And they have a light account that's like $1 a month. And you can put, they have different levels of things that you can invest in. Because often starting an IRA, you need $5,000 or you need a certain amount of money. And let's see, I have a link for you. This is how I got started. Let's see. I'll send you a little link. And you can check it out. It's an app on your phone. I'm not sure if it works on your computer. But for folks that are like, I need to get started with investing, I don't have $5,000, $10,000 to start a SEP IRA or whatever. It's a really good option for being like, I'm going to put away a small amount every week or every month into an account, and it can be in the market and grow. It's an easy way to do it. And I'll look for a person. You might have to email me and remind me, but I'm happy to connect you with someone.
Thank
Great.
you.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Anyone else before I am like, I am just going to do some releasing work with you. Going to have my way with you. Corva.
Yeah, I actually have a thing, and I keep trying to pretend that it's not a thing, but it's a thing.
Perfect.
So
I love things that are pretending to not be things.
So I just launched my new website, and it's out in the world, and really super exciting. And
super excited, just so you know. Yay! Did everybody see it? Do you want to put it in the chat so we can all see it?
Oh, okay. And then 2 days later, my brother contacted me, and I have a pretty problematic relationship with him. But I mean, I love him. We're, civil and good to each other. And, but he contacted me, and he works for a big solar company. And he has said this to me before, but I was putting my business in dormancy, so it was a perfect out. But he's like, oh, I could put a banner on your website, and, you could get a $500 cut. And he's very salesy. He really means well. It's a total red flag for me. I don't want to do it at all, but I'm trying to kind of stay in the conversation just for the sake of relationship with him. And he said something yesterday. He was like, great, let's just do this, and I'll send you the banner, and you can put, I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking put your banner on my website, dude. Like, what is your problem? And then, so I'm just being very frank with everybody here. So
Awesome.
So I was like, let's talk. So we talked on the phone, and he said something, I was explaining something. I just asked him questions like, what does collaboration mean to you? Knowing that we're on different planets, but I thought I'm just going to try. And he said something about, you don't need to really overthink this too much. And I was like, fuck you. So this is the thing for me. Like, it's very clear. Like, if it wasn't my brother, it would be so clear. Like, I'm not going to do an affiliate link with this person. I don't have the same values, nothing, but it's family. Mm-hmm. And it's so deep. And so there's a part of me, this is why I'm pretending it's not a thing, because I'm very clear, like, I'm not going to do this with him. Like, I feel very clear about that. Mm-hmm. But it's like, there is so much shame that comes up with this whole thing of like, you don't need to overthink this. Like, he might as well have said, you're being over emotional. You're making a big deal about this, like, it's all this shame. And I'm like, my family is fucked up, and it just pissed me off. But so now I'm like, obviously it's a thing. It's not a thing, so
yeah,
I'm like, the hit I got on this whole birth is this, it's really quite deep, actually.
This is great work. This is all about relationships and boundaries. So, congratulations. You're working with relationships and boundaries. So there's a lot to this, but basically, you have a circle of people who are your people, right? And you are keeping your family in your circle. You do not have to do that. And in fact, as a small side trip, you can have your internal, like your kind of inner council, your close people, and then you can have your kind of bigger community, right? And then you can have kind of everyone else. And people who are on the outside of your circle, right? You don't owe them anything, right? And I'm going to talk about this because we learn with the, noticing difference. So people who are on the outside of your circle, you don't owe them anything. And when they come to you and they ask you for something, you can say this to them: no. No, no, thank you. I'm not going to do that. And so let's just for a minute say these things with me. Say no.
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 No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No,
I am
thank
not
you.
going to do that.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
I'm not going to do that.
Right. So people who are in your circles, the reason that you have this conflict is because you're right that people who are in your circles, we want to keep them in good shape, as good a shape as possible. And that's why we give people reasons when we say no. We often conflate saying no with being mean, which is not true, right? You can say yes, you can say no. But inside of our circles, if you just say no to someone and you don't give them anything, they will likely have feelings about that, right? And if you want to keep them in relationship and you want to keep them in good shape, you want to give them a reason. You still get to have boundaries. And that reason for you sounds like we just don't have matching, what is it called? Audiences. It's just not going to be a good fit. It's not going to be a good fit for him either because you just don't have matching audiences. An affiliate works best when there are matching audiences, right? And that's it. It's not personal to him, although he can take it personally, but it's not going to work for you. And it's not going to work for your business. It's not going to work for your clients. It's not going to work for his clients. It's just not going to work. And it's hard to, we've talked about our sword of truth. It's hard to kind of cut away the pieces, the shame and all of that. But like at the core of it, for your business, it's just not going to work. And if it doesn't work for your clients, it's not going to work for him either.
Oh, right. It's interesting, the piece about owing somebody an explanation. I think that's where I'm getting kind of tripped up, is that I'd like to just say no, thank you. But because he's family, I do feel like I owe him an explanation. And then that makes I just feel like it's a setup because he'll just say the same thing he's always said, like, oh, you're making a big deal about this. Why can't you? Blah, 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 blah.
Well, he's allowed to have whatever feelings he wants. It doesn't mean that you have to buy into them. And that's the thing, is holding that boundary. And so the way that it happens is you set a boundary with someone, and if they can hold that boundary, right, you can stay in some kind of relationship. If you have to set a boundary with someone repeatedly, that's when they can go from the inside of the circle to the outside of the circle, right? If they can't play with you, right? If they can't accept your no, right, then they can't play with you. And that is what ends up being hard, is that the consequence for the boundary and reinforcing that boundary is that the relationship often has to change a bit, right? It doesn't mean you never speak to your brother again, but it can just, and you can say this to people: hey, if you can't respect my boundary, I have to take a step back from you, right? It doesn't mean that you never speak to them. But, let me give you an example of this. I had, in a friend relationship, I had someone who would constantly ask me for money or to pay for things. And after 4 different times of saying, look, if you need that, I need you to let me know in advance. And then eventually I'm not available for that. And then they would set me up, we'd go out to lunch, and they would forget their wallet magically. And so eventually I was like, I'm sorry, I can't hang out with you one-on-one. I'm happy to see you in groups and see you at community events, but I can't do that because you're not honoring my boundary. I don't think you're a terrible person, like you're being who you are, but it just doesn't work for me, right? So when the thing that we're scared about mostly is our consequences, that we're not willing to actually enforce boundaries. And we're not willing to say to our brother or sister, hey, stop being a douchebag, like respect me. I told you no, right? And they just keep pushing because they've always pushed and you've always relented.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so again, this is a question of what are you committed to? Are you committed to holding your boundary? And if you are, if you're actually committed to holding your boundary, you'll notice that there's a way that this relationship has to change when you enforce your boundary and they just don't honor it.
Right.
What,
yeah, I'm committed to it. I'm committed to
what do
holding
you,
this back.
hold on, everybody. What do you want to say to your brother now? Or what are you ready to say?
Well, I kind of have two. I have what I want to say and what I feel like I should say. So what I want to say is, no, thank you. This isn't going to work. We have different audiences, actually. So it won't really work for either of us.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to give voice to the one that you feel like you should say?
That one has like, hey, I'm sorry, I know we talked about this, but it's really, it has like that at the beginning of it. Which it could be a way of just acknowledging, like, yeah, we did talk about it, but I don't really want to say I'm sorry to him.
You don't have to say you're sorry. And apologies on this level are really about you. Do you want to say, I'm sorry I wasn't able to say no to you earlier? That you can say, right? Like, you wish you could have said no. It's an interesting thing about an apology. If you apologize to someone, sometimes we'll feel taken from if the other person also can't clean up, that they're not going to be able to clean up their side of the street. It's really hard to give an apology to someone when they're not going to handle their shit. Right. And so in that case, if you were going to apologize, it would be for you, not for them. Like, this is what I'm responsible for. And just because you're taking responsible for this doesn't mean you're taking responsible for the history of all there is. Mm-hmm. Right. And that is when the dangers of boundaries is like you apologize for something and then they're like, well, and this and this and this and this. And it's just like, no, it's like, you got to be real clear about where your spot is. So if you're not up for giving an apology, don't do it.
Yeah.
And if you
that's the thing is I really don't want to, because I know he's not going to clean up his side of the street, and like you said, so
yeah, I recommend putting it in writing and just being like, here, this is where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good idea. Put it in writing. Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a way to add that piece of like, I do value having a relationship with you. Right. Like there's, and again, I don't know your relationship, but that like leading with vulnerability. And it's almost saying like, this is really hard for me to do. To hold this boundary is edgy for me because I do care about you and I want to have a really good relationship with you, but it's not aligned. Just like what you were saying. But I think there's a piece of like, I hear there's also like that you do value to a certain degree, even though there's like all that like messiness there, like he's your brother, right? Like and wanting to maintain or still have that relationship and not feel like this is gonna completely cut that off. So I don't know if there's a piece in that. I just want to throw that in there.
That actually feels really good because that is the case. It's like, and it's also about sovereignty for me. Like I want to be able to have a relationship with him in a relationship way, not him trying to like use me, but not, I mean, it's just so weird. It's so like takey. It's so weird without him really saying like, hey, you've had this successful thing and I really respect what you've done. And I mean, it's just, it's really gross actually. So I like that part about just acknowledging.
And I think there's something about what I'm relating it into my world because it's very similar but different. But that consequence piece, I feel like it's almost like telling yourself the story that if by saying no, then all of those other issues that you've had with your brother are examples of, and therefore the consequences, when I say no, I'm never going to have a relationship with him. So I might as well just, say yes. And what I was going to ask about was like the fear of the consequence, because for me it's my dad, and that fear of the consequence like is harder for me. So now it's really more about me and accepting of him. But like the reality is like there's more work for me to do to stand in my power of where I'm at and where my growth is and where he can contribute to my success or he can contribute to my demise. And many times it's to my demise. And I still keep going back because it's a dad.
So let me give you, I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause you right there. So let me give you an example of setting a boundary and changing a relationship that actually worked really well and has made my relationship stronger. Because we often don't talk about these. We often talk about the places it's really hard. So I grew up with a mom who was very, very sick. She was bipolar. She had all kinds of issues. She was sick my whole life. She eventually got Alzheimer's. She had Alzheimer's for 10 years from diagnosis to death. It was horrifying. And my mom was very, very abusive because she was all of these things, sick, blah, blah, blah. When she died, my dad, and that is all fine. Like, don't worry about me. When she died, my dad was like, I wish I had left her sooner. I'm so like, I love you guys so much. And I was like, oh, score, we're going to have a great relationship. I'm super excited. I can have a dad again. It's great. And then he married a woman who's even more abusive than my mom. And I said to him, and she did some really wild things. And I finally just said to him, I love you very much. And I was related to mom and I had to be there. I am not related to this woman. And I will not come to your house while she's there. I do not want to have any contact with her. She's been abusive to me and to my child. And I'm not available for that. I'm happy to see you. I love you very much. You're welcome to come to my house, but I am not coming to your house. And the first Christmas was very hard because they didn't believe that I would hold my boundary. And so my sister did a very manipulative thing. And she had even though I'd been telling them for 9 months, she had all of the Christmas presents for my son delivered to my dad's house, right? And told me on Christmas Eve, on the 23rd, so that she was trying to get me to come down there, like compel me to come. And I was like, well, I can go to the store and get my son some extra Christmas presents. I'm all good. And it rocked my family because they were like, I didn't believe that I would hold my boundary. The result, though, of that has been that my dad visits me once or twice a year now in my beautiful home. And he comes to me. He is very well behaved. He does not talk about his super crazy abusive wife. And in fact, I've held this boundary so well that he has started to talk to me about divorcing her. And it does change things, right? I was worried I'd never see my dad again. And I had a lot of feelings about this, but holding the boundary and being like, this is actually what I need. I don't deserve to be abused. I do not deserve to be treated like that. And I claim this. I am committed to taking care of myself, right? I am committed. And eventually my dad was like, I miss you. Can I come visit you? Which, for the record, he had done once in the almost like 18 years at that point that I lived in the Bay Area. He'd come once. So it was clear that he wanted a relationship with me, right? It was clear that he was going to actually step up and handle it. But it was scary as fuck. But now we have a relationship where we talk like every other week. It's extraordinary, the work of like actually being committed to getting your needs met and setting that boundary and just holding it. big, hard work. Let's take a deep breath. Maybe shake off some of that energy, or maybe it's just me telling big stories. Brings up a lot of stuff. And we are at the end. I wanted to leave you with, so first I want to leave you with a link to this book. Oh, she has a website. It's called Super Better, the one I was talking about, sort of gamifying all the things and your resilience. Then I want to give you this. That is a link to sign up for my 7 profitability hacks. And so we can keep in touch. I really encourage you to come play. I have a Facebook group, all that stuff. But reach out. If I can help you in any way, reach out. I'm about to start, I don't have a launch date yet, but I'm going to do a group financial coaching program, if that's a thing that you're like, I need more of this. But also I'd just be happy to hear from you. We have a couple minutes left, and I think what I'd like to do is, if you're willing to give me reflections over the however long we have been working together, I would love to hear your reflections and gratitudes as a way to close out our time and space together.
I just appreciate your insight, your perspective, your the tools and the processes and the things that you've worked us through. And I think that you're pretty, I don't know what I would call it, like your straightforward approach, kind of like cut through the bullshit and kind of get to the heart of it. I think you do a really great job of that, and I'm grateful for the time to bust through, the blocks. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll ditto that, Marisa here. I'll ditto that, and I appreciate the validation. Like, your personal experiences, personal stories helps me feel validated, and that I'm not alone in my thoughts, And I appreciate the talk today on standing in that leadership and how to get there and be strong and build confidence. It's a good one. And overall, yeah, I just feel really validated when we come together. Thank you for that. I'm really grateful there's a place for us all to circle and share what's real. So thank you for being so real.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate the balance of masculine and feminine energy, just like this, you're boundaried and clear and direct and confident and assertive, and then also just the safety that you bring and the nurturing energy, and yeah, the greater holding of all of us. So really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I also felt very similarly, and I was saying how valuable I feel like this work is to me. But like I feel like touched deeply, like tenderly, like the part of me is held with tenderness, but also is like with clarity, and like the others were saying, clarity and empowerment and energy. So I feel very full when I'm with you, and just very appreciative and seen and supported.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll go. I would say that I find your brand of wisdom painfully honest and hits a chord with me every single time. That is just, it hits a part of me that I know is true, that I don't want to see.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really like you've really changed the way that I think about money. Like I've never heard someone talk about money with so much like clarity, but there's like this illumination where there's just, I feel like so much was sort of in this mushy shadow realm of like, oh yeah, I don't know, there's probably some stuff there, but I don't know. And I feel like you've just cast so much light. Like here it is, here's the patterns, here's the stuff you get caught up on, here's the framework, kind of this matrix to understand how it works and what's going on. And then here's how to like work with it, or here's how to have compassion for yourself, or here's how, just so much. I feel like you've brought so much light and illumination, kind of like it was a dark room and you came and like turned on the light. So now I can see around like, oh, this is what money is, and this is what it means, and this is how to unpack some of the patterns and layers that are connected to self-worth and money and earning and security and abundance and scarcity and like all this stuff that felt very kind of mushy and vague. Like there's so much vagueness around money. And so, yeah, you've really brought this clarity, and I appreciate your faith in yourself and the work and your rootedness in truth, so that you're able just to, like hand it to us. Like, well, here's what's going on. And it's like, whoa, like that's really special. That's really, really a unique, special thing. So thank you for that empowerment. And I'm about to send you an email. I've been wanting to get in touch with you and kind of like mucking around, but just FYI, I hope we can check in soon.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you, everyone.
Ditto that. That was super, you are super illuminating, and I feel just really held in this space and everybody coming forward with their vulnerability. And, I feel like a lot was unearthed, and I feel without actually having done that much work here, like, just personally on my own, I feel like so much more unstuck. And so I look forward to continuing the journey and also connecting with you further. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I second all of that. Thank you so much, Brianna.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been such a delight to work with you. And yeah, you're welcome to reach out to me. I hope that we get a chance to do more things together. I'm sending you tons of love. Yeah. And if there's anything that you want to write, like if you're like, I want to say something, but not on here, you're welcome to email me or message me, and we can talk about it. So thank you all for coming and playing with me. It has been such a delight. And I want to leave you with a wish. Are you up for having a wish? Okay. So my wish for you is that as you travel this journey, that the clarity that you have and the inspiration and wholeness of heart that you have when you are here spreads out into the world, that your relationship with money is transformed, and that as you transform that, you transmit your love and your healing and your brilliance out into the world, and together we transform the world. I wish it for you. I wish it for all of us. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.